Shabbos Daf Mem Gimel. We're trying to catch up and make up the lost daf that we had over Pesach. This is from 4 days ago. Daf Mem Gimel. We had the sheet over of Chizda that you're permitted to cover an egg to protect it, but you're not permitted to put a kli under the egg to catch it. What's the difference? Rav Yosef says because you're mevatel kli meichanai. You're canceling a kli. You can no longer use this kli once the egg touches it. It's muktzah. But when you cover an egg, you could uncover it whenever you want. So the Gemara brings all the brises and mishnayos that we had the other day, starting with if you have a barrel full of tevel, full of wine and oil that you never took trumas amaisis from, and it breaks. You're allowed to take another vessel to catch the oil and the wine, but that vessel should be muktzah because wine that's tevel l'chayra is muktzah. Says the Gemara, it's not muktzah because if somebody was over and took trumas amaisis on Shabbos, he'd be yaitei. What about the fact that it says in the Mishnah Daf Mem Zayin that you're allowed to put a vessel underneath a candle to catch the sparks, but you must say because the sparks have no mamashas. They're not visible, so the kli never becomes muktzah. We learned that you're allowed to take a bench to support a broken beam in the ceiling. Again, we must say that the bench is not in there completely. You can remove it easily. What about the fact that you're allowed to take a bucket to catch the rain that's coming off the roof? Rain, that is not muktzah that you could drink. There's a halacha that you're allowed to take a basket in order to help the young chickens to go back into the chicken coop. Says the Gemara, you're allowed to move that basket unless those chicks were on the basket during Ben HaShmashos, where then we say migud is katzoi. Ben HaShmashos, it's katzoi l'kuli yoma. Rabbi Yitzchak argues with Rav Chisda, and he says not only is it usher to catch an egg on Shabbos, but it's also usher to cover and protect an egg on Shabbos. Why? Because he holds that you're not allowed to move any kli on Shabbos if it's for the tzorech, for the use of a item that's muktzah. But what about all these brises and mishnayos that we just mentioned? You're allowed to move a bench that's not muktzah to hold up a beam that's broken, but the beam that's broken is muktzah. You're allowed to take a basket that's not muktzah for chickens that are muktzah. We must say in all those cases that he started out carrying the bench and the basket and the bowl and all those other things with a heter. It was l'tzorech mekaymai. He had to pick up the bench because he needed it for the place. He needed the spot that the bench was sitting on. Once he was holding it in his hand, we allow him to continue and support the beam. We allow him to continue and put the basket down for the chicks. The Gemara asks a question from an egg that was born on Shabbos. It says you're not allowed to cover a vessel with it, and a very interesting halacha. You're not allowed to support your bed. There are people that would support beds with eggs. It could carry a lot of force, a lot of pounds. You're not allowed to do so. However, you're allowed to protect the egg that was born on Shabbos. Again, we must say, you're protecting it with a kli that you started carrying it with a heter of the tzarech mekaymai. It says, you're allowed to take a machzeles, a reed, and put it on top of small stones. But the small stones are muktzah. We're talking about stones that are not muktzah, stones that they used instead of toilet paper. What about the fact that they take a machzeles and cover bricks from a building site? We're talking about that the building is already done, the construction is over, and now he's using those bricks for a heter. They're not muktzah, he's using them to lean on. What about the fact that it says that you're allowed to cover a beehive with a machzeles? You're allowed to cover a beehive, but you have to make sure and you're covering it, you want to protect it from the rain and from the sun. The Gemara understood that it's probably talking about the winter and the summer. Provided that you leave space for the bees to escape, you don't want to trap them, you don't want to be over on Seder. If there's honey in the beehive, then the beehive is not muktzah. You're eating from the honey. If it's in the winter, where there's no honey, we have to say that he left over 2 hives to sustain the bees over the winter. And he thought to himself that he's going to eat from that honey, and therefore it's not muktzah. Or another pshat is that we're not talking about the winter or the summer. We're talking about in Nisan and in Tishrei when there's rain and sun and honey. So therefore the beehive is not muktzah. All this is going according to Rabbi Yehuda, who holds there is a concept of muktzah. According to Rabbi Shimon, the beehive wouldn't be muktzah. But according to Rabbi Yehuda, davar sheim iskaven is usher. In other words, if you cover the beehive and you trap the bees in there by mistake, you're over. We must say he left a nice gap in there so the bees can escape. Rav Huna also agrees with this concept of Rav Yosef that if you're not allowed to carry a kli that's mutter, that's not muktzah, for something that is muktzah. And he says this in another halacha completely. He says by a mace, if you have a corpse, you're not allowed to cover the corpse from the sun, unless you're covering the mace because of people that are alive. So how do you do it? Two people sit on either side of the mace, and they become really hot from sitting on the floor. So they bring benches. They sit on the benches, and they're really hot from the sun. So they bring reed, they bring oil, and they hold it over the mace. Then they lift up the benches to make it a little higher, and then they walk away, and the mace remains protected from the sun. If a dead person is laying in the sun, what do? It's going to be bezayin mace. The first eitzah is to use kikar v'tinok. You use any item that's not muktzah, a baby, a loaf of bread, a carrot, whatever it is that's not muktzah, you put it on the dead person or on the bed of the dead person, and then you can move the baby and the loaf of bread, and then derech agav, you happen to be moving the dead person. If you don't have any of those items, according to Shmuel, you flip over the dead person from bed to bed until you get to the place that you need to get to. That's tiltul min atzad. He holds that's not considered carrying. Rav holds that is considered carrying, therefore that is asur. What if there's a fire? If you have a kikar and tinoik, that's not a problem. If you don't have those items, well, there's a manda omar that says that you're allowed to save the dead person because a person is bo'ol al mesa. He's going to be so concerned about the dead person, he'll be over on the iraisa of extinguishing the flame. So we rather him just do tiltum in the rabbanon and not be over. And the halacha is like Yehuda ben Lakish that says you're allowed to do so. Reb Shimon says, the final halacha for today, if you have leftover oil, and we're going to see this later on, if you have leftover oil in a lamp that was extinguished, according to Reb Shimon, he doesn't hold migdus katsoy ben hashmoshes, it's katsoy the kuli yom, and therefore that oil is mutar on Shabbos. Have a wonderful day.